Hey, who out there in YouTube land wants to talk about some tight ends? Not those kind, the football kind. What is going on, everybody? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's having a great week out there. Today we're talking about tight ends, the football kind. And I'm going to go into a top 15 rankings. I extend it by a couple because I know there's not a whole lot of options out there for tight end. Really, you get like 4 guys, and after that, it's like a jumbled mess of hot garbage. You really don't know what to do on a weekly basis. Tight end has been a headache all season long, unless you were lucky enough to get Kelce, Ertz, maybe even Kittle, Ebron. Outside of that, there hasn't been a whole lot of nothing this year that's been consistent for you. So let's hit into the top 15 tight ends here for week 14 and see if we can help you out a little bit. All right, number one's no shock. It's still Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs, and his usage is absolutely crazy right now. Back-to-back weeks with double-digit catches, including last week, 12 receptions, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Huge week for Travis Kelce. And now they get the Baltimore Ravens, and a lot of you guys are thinking, man, it's a difficult matchup against the Ravens, and that defense is solid. If there's one weakness, though, it's against the tight ends. They've given up a touchdown to an opposing tight end 3 straight weeks now. Definitely a defense that can be had by the tight end, and what a shocker. The Kansas City Chiefs use their tight end a lot. Love Travis Kelce this week. Again, he's my number 1 tight end, week 14. Number 2 is the feel-good story of George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm really hoping he can finish strong. I had a bold prediction video in the preseason where I said he could finish as a top 5 tight end. Right now, he's tight end 4. So he's fringe making it there for me. I appreciate you, George. And he's been one of the most consistent tight ends all year long, despite all the quarterback changes that have happened in San Francisco. Now they get the Denver Broncos defense giving up on average right now just under 13 points a game to opposing tight ends. And how convenient that George Kittle is averaging right around 13 fantasy points a game. Lining up to be another solid, consistent game. George Kittle, right now I have him as my tight end 2 for week 14. Number 3 is going to be Zach Ertz of the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you have Zach Ertz, congratulations. You're one of the few, the proud, the few tight end owners of the fantasy football world, because there's not a whole lot of options. Ertz has been great all season long. Currently tight end 2 overall in PPR leagues. Last week, 9 receptions, 83 yards, no touchdowns. Only 1 touchdown in his past 3 weeks, but I expect that to start turning around. Somewhat of a difficult matchup. They're going up against the Dallas Cowboys, whose defense really been playing great as of late. Only 1 allowed touchdown over the past 3 weeks to opposing tight ends. However, it came in week 12 against the Washington Redskins, where Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis put up 148 yards. So this is still a decent matchup. Don't just look at the Dallas Cowboys defense and think that Zach Ertz is going to be limited. That high upside is still there. Love Zach Ertz. He's tight end 3 this week. Number 4 is going to be Eric Ebron of the Indianapolis Colts, and even on a week where he didn't score a touchdown, he still brought in 10 receptions for 81 yards last week. Still going to be a big part of this offense, especially now that there's no Jack Motherfucking Doyle. I got to say it again. Love it. Eric Ebron is right there in this top tier of tight ends, really. I mean, he really comes after these top 3 just based off of his touchdown upside alone and how much they throw the ball in Indianapolis. Now he gets a pretty decent matchup. The 25th ranked defense against opposing tight ends in the Houston Texans. They've allowed 3 receiving touchdowns over their past 4 games. Yes, it's a difficult defense. However, Eric Ebron's so heavily involved, and the Texans have proven to give up points to tight ends in the past. Still a great start for me this week. Number 5 is the saga that we call Jared Cook. You just never know what you're going to get. However, 3 straight weeks now with a touchdown, and he's starting to get a little bit more involved in the offense. Last week, 7 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now he gets the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 21st against opposing tight ends, giving up on average just over 13 points a game. However, they have only allowed 1 passing touchdown to an opposing tight end in their last 5 weeks. Now, with Jared Cook and the Oakland Raiders, there's not a whole lot of options to throw it to. So as long as he can see the volume, he'll put up big numbers. Like I said, we saw Jordy Nelson go out and go absolutely crazy last week. That's not the normal in Oakland. The most consistent receiving option in Oakland for the season has been Jared Cook. Decent matchup. Got him as tight end 5 this week. Number 6 is going to be Cameron Brate of the Tampa Bay Bucks, up a little bit higher this week just due to the matchup. Now, the Saints defense plays great against opposing tight ends. They're actually second in the league, allowing only just under 8 points per game to opposing tight ends. But we're down in that area, right? Once you really get past the top 5, it's really a crapshoot. And right now, Cameron Brate has that upside for heavy volume. There should be a lot of throwing. I can see both quarterbacks in this game, both Drew Brees and Jameis Winston, getting 50 pass attempts. And if that's the case and they're moving the ball down the field, Cameron Brate has that opportunity, especially inside the red zone, to capitalize on a touchdown, maybe even 2, in a game where they're going to have to continue to throw all 4 quarters to stay in the game with the Saints. I do like Cameron Brate for his touchdown upside alone this week. I have him as tight end 6, which is slightly a gamble. Number 7 is going to be David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns, who last week had a very disappointing week. 3 catches for 8 yards. I mean, that's almost impressive. I mean, to only get 8 yards off 3 catch, whatever. He figured it out. But now he gets a lot better matchup going up against the Carolina Panthers, the 30th ranked defense against opposing tight ends. They're giving up on average 16 points a game to opposing tight ends. They're going to have to use David Njoku. It's a lot easier to throw on the Panthers than it is to run on them. I expect him to be a little bit more involved in the game plan this week. Now, the Panthers haven't allowed a receiving touchdown to an opposing tight end in the past 3 weeks. That's something to pay attention to. There's always risk, but with all these guys down here, they all have risk. David Njoku has that high ceiling, that high upside in a game script which could feature him this week. I got him right now as tight end 7. Number 8 is going to be Austin Hooper of the Atlanta Falcons, and he's been pretty consistent. His ceiling just isn't overly high. He's good for right around 4 to 7 catches a week, anywhere from 25 to 65 yards. Not having that crazy high ceiling, though, really limits his upside, and that's why he's all the way down here at number 8, which still isn't bad given the lack of depth here for the tight end position. Somewhat of a difficult matchup this week. Green Bay is the 3rd-ranked defense against opposing tight ends, giving up only 8 points per game. Haven't given up a touchdown to an opposing tight end the last 2 weeks. Somewhat of a difficult matchup, but the usage is there for Austin Hooper to give you a safe floor play week in and week out. Right now, I have him as tight end 8. Number 9 is going to be Gronk, Rom Gronkowski of the New England Patriots. I'm going to be completely honest. As the week goes on, this could continue to kind of fall down the rankings just a tad, which is kind of disappointing. If you have Gronk, you were expecting big things from him this year. Last week against Minnesota, tough matchup, only 3 receptions for 26 yards. The game before that, 3 receptions for 56 and a touchdown. The upside for the touchdowns will always be there as long as he's on the field. The problem is we have to keep him on the field. That's been the biggest issue this week. He hasn't had more than 3 catches in a game since week 5. However, it's the New England Patriots. Really hard to figure out that offense. And on any given week, he could go out there and explode for a big game. Going up against the Miami Dolphins this week, who give up on average right around 13 points per game. That's good enough for 21st in the NFL. Decent matchup for Rob Gronkowski. Like I said in other videos, I expect the New England Patriots offense to try to build momentum. Hopefully he can stay on the field, because if he does, he has a super high ceiling. We just haven't seen much of it here this year. Right now, he's tight end 9 for me. Number 10 is going to be Trey Burton, and he's kind of in no man's land right here because we really don't know what's going to happen with Mitch Trubisky. If Mitch plays, he'll slightly move up these rankings. If Mitch doesn't play, he'll slightly move down these rankings. So right now, got him at number 10, going up against a Rams defense, which gives up points to the opposing tight end, right around 14 points per game. They've given up a touchdown to an opposing tight end 3 out of their last 4 games. Definitely a solid start. We just need to wait and see what's going on with that quarterback situation, because Trey Burton has a very decent floor with Mitch Magic. Right there, right around 9-10 points a game is something we could kind of count on if we could get Mitch back under center. Let's hope that happens, but pay attention to the practice reports. His ranking depends on it. Number 11 is Jordan Reed of the Washington Redskins, and it's crazy. Here we are, week 14, and yes, we're still talking Jordan Reed. Even though we expected him to be injured all year long, he's been fine. His quarterbacks haven't. Now he has the Sanchez, Mark Sanchez, and it's really going to limit the upside of Jordan Reed. If there was a whole lot of upside this year, he's averaging just under 10 points a game, which isn't bad. Just hasn't had any of those big Jordan Reed games that we were used to seeing in the past. It's a decent matchup going up against the 20th ranked defense of the New York Giants against tight ends. They haven't allowed a touchdown to an opposing tight end the last 2 straight weeks. So Jordan Reed has that upside. It's going to be capped by Mark Sanchez. Need to see how he plays. Right now I have him as tight end 11 for week 14. Number 12 is going to be CJ Uzomah of the Cincinnati Bengals. Somebody who's been pretty consistent as of late, not a crazy high ceiling again like a lot of these other tight ends. However, over the past 3 weeks, has averaged 8 fantasy points a game, right around 4 to 5 receptions, and about 40 yards a game. Not huge numbers, I get it. But once you get down to tight end 12, there's not a whole lot of decent options with safe floors. He does have somewhat of an okay matchup this week, going up against the 13th ranked defense of the Los Angeles Chargers. However, they have not allowed a touchdown to an opposing tight end the last 4 weeks. In fact, they haven't allowed more than 50 yards receiving to an opposing tight end since week 10. Definitely a solid defense there in Los Angeles. Once you get to this area, though, you're just looking for some type of a safe floor. Right now, CJ Uzomah, with no AJ Green in that offense, kind of has a safe floor. At 13, we have probably one of the most disappointing tight ends of the season, Kyle Rudolph of the Minnesota Vikings. A lot more was expected of him coming into the season, and now he hasn't had a touchdown since week 3. What the heck's going on with the lack of usage of Kyle Rudolph? Well, mostly because everything goes to Diggs and Thielen, and if it's not to them, it's soaked up in the running game. Kyle Rudolph last week against the Patriots, 3 catches, 38 yards. Really thought he was going to take a small step forward because the week before that against Green Bay, 7 catches for 63. And then he reverted right back to his 3-catch self. Going in this week against the Seattle Seahawks, giving up on average just under 10 points a game, which is right around where Rudolph is averaging. It's not one of these great plays. He's kind of like CJ Uzomah, right? He's got like a decent floor, but the ceiling just isn't there. But let's be realistic, down at tight end 13, not a whole lot of other options. Number 14 is going to be Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, a lot of you guys don't even know who Mark Andrews is. In fact, he's only owned in 1.8% of leagues, but I have him ranked as tight end 14 this week. Why? They're going to have to throw more in Baltimore. They're going to have have a chance to beat the Kansas City Chiefs this week. Mark Andrews, if anybody in that offense has had a safe floor, it's somewhat been him. He's had 7+ fantasy points in PPR leagues, 5 out of his last 6 games. His volume isn't overly crazy, but they're going to have to include him in this passing game this week to have some sort of a chance. The Chiefs are the worst ranked defense against opposing tight ends, giving up on average over 16 points a game. They've given up 4 touchdown receptions in their past 2 games. Definitely a great matchup for Mark Andrews. Can Lamar Jackson include him? If he can, he could be a big surprise for you down there at tight end 14. Number 15, we're going to take a shot in the dark on Jordan Thomas of the Houston Texans, somebody who has 4 touchdowns in their past 5 games. Not a whole lot of usage, but he does have a knack for being one of their top targets inside the red zone, especially for Deshaun Watson. Now they get the 16th ranked defense of the Indianapolis Colts, giving up on average just over 12 fantasy points a game. Not a bad matchup. It's got some high touchdown upside. The volume isn't quite there. We need that touchdown, but I got him at tight end 15 here this week. All right, there's my top 15 tight ends here for week 14. Hopefully that was able to help you make your lineup decisions. If not, hit up the comment section down below. Either myself or somebody in this community will try to help you out the best that we possibly can. Really hope you had a good week. Looking forward to the live show Saturday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Have a lot of fun on the live shows, and yes, we'll be letting it flow. Looking forward to talking to you guys then. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye.